for the recording. Yeah. So now we are taking the financial aspects of today, and critical mineral blocks we have talked about just now in the earlier paper, and then food subsidy also we have talked that how it is getting up by the 18,000 crore and what are the common reasons behind it. So India is seeking early reviews of the ASEAN Korea trade pacts, and Singapore, South Korea to review the trade agreement review by the coming time. एंड अगर हम बात करें तो एशिया के साथ हमारा है आसियान इंडिया ट्रेड इन द गुड्स एक्सपायर एग्रीमेंट एंड सिंगापुर इज वन ऑफ द 10 members of the ASEAN FTA. India ASEAN summit in August in Indonesia. Both sides agreed to complete the review by 2025 and to meet the deadlines. उसके बाद अगर हम बात करते हैं सेपा which is with Korea. So we have AIGTA with the ASEAN countries and SEPA with the Korea particularly. Then we are working on to reduce the tariffs by 90% on Indian goods over the decade, and India reduced tax on the Korean goods by 85%. So both sides the mutual understandings works are going on to rationalize the trade, and Indian exports to Korea went up to $6.6 billion from the 4.7 billion earlier target. And Indo-Pacific Economic Framework we also have with the members of Asia like Australia, Brunei, Fiji, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, and other countries. So basically both the developed and the developing and underdeveloped countries are currently the part of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. And Commerce Ministry is basically our trade, and the trade representative of the US are basically working on this and in the convergence with the TWTO members on the favorable outcomes of 13th Ministerial Conference of the WTO. So Prerna can take what were the compositions of this WTO 13th meet and where it was done.
Okay, Pravesh,
So
is India a member of ASEAN?
No, India is an associate member, but not a main member.
ठीक है.
And WPI inflation we have also talked.
Pravesh, if Taiwan is member of ASEAN?
I don't think so.
Yes, it is not a member.
Okay, so now we can talk India to get anti-aircraft missiles from Russia, and the name is TAS. So it is an IGLA as handheld anti-aircraft missiles to India and allow production of IGLA under the license. So this will help in robusting our defense apparatus, especially the air defense. And the IGLA is a man portable air defense system, जिसको manpad के नाम से भी बोला जाता है, and it can be fired by an individual or crew to bring down an enemy aircraft. And when we are seeing that the continuous penetration of the drones on the international borders we are seeing, and then the UAVs are also coming, the again the infiltration is happening by them, so this is going to help us in dealing with that problem. And Su-30 MKI fighter jets also we have, which we took from the Russia. Then India is the world's largest arm importer, and Russia remains its largest supplier, despite the damage to the reputation of its army in the Ukraine war. But according to the Stockholm International Peace (SIPRI) report, Russia accounted 45%, and France 29%, and US 11%. So now again we can say that India is heading towards the defense indigenization when we are also exporting our defense exports in terms of UAVs, in terms of defense technologies, manpower technologies in Asian and in African countries also. So also we are also becoming that exporters of the defense. But yes, we need to reduce this import dependency in the defense sector.
Okay, और ये भी देख सकते हैं जो टास है वो ये रशिया की स्टेट न्यूज एजेंसी है. ओके, दिस इज देव बीन रिपोर्टेड, और ये एक हैंड हेल्ड एंटी एयरक्राफ्ट मिसाइल होने वाली है.
Yeah, so UK India trade pacts we have seen, and India employment rate at record low. This is a report of the SBI. So apart from that, yeah, Mansi, we have talked about this. So central government may ask technological giants for access to the anonymized data. So when we are seeing that data localization की बात चल रही है, data privacy की बात चल रही है, data secrecy की बात चल रही है, तो now the center is coming a more step ahead when it is asking the giants of the technology to give access to the anonymized data also to the government agencies in the interest of the sovereignty and
Prabhas,
security of the
you can take
country.
this one.
Okay, you
ले
take.
चुके थे different नहीं ले चुके थे ना
Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
कि
We
what
have
is
taken.
difference between the personal data and non-personal data.
Yeah. So these are some corporate
Refin,
news.
मतलब EV के लिए separately we are having financing platforms also. Refin एक example है. 500 crores next 12 months to fuel the business expansion plans. तो ये क्या
So
है?
we are focusing on OSAT manufacturing firms under the DLI, that is a Design Linked Incentive Scheme of the Government of India. And what is OSAT is basically, Oshi, can you? Okay, so basically OSAT is again the semiconductor assembly and manufacturing, under the 3D IC chips. So basically OSAT manufacturing firms are again the semiconductor technological development companies, and we are welcoming them under the DLI scheme, and we are providing them intellectual property rights also. Then 50% subsidy on their manpower and other expenses the Indian government is giving. Venture capital funds have been established for them, and designs like Navik open source process architecture have been provided. Semiconductor landscape is completely changed in India when the government is willing to fund also them, and we have 5 unicorns currently on the semiconductors industry, and engineering colleges
Prabhas,
have been set up. Sorry.
NVIDIA and GPU they
Yeah, graphic processing units and architects for the AI workloads. So again, these are technological manufacturing and production talks which we have seen here. So banks and third-party app providers to disable UPI IDs of inactive users. And this is I think, a regulatory step which is done by the NPCI, who has asked from the companies and the service providers to, like PhonePe, Google Pay, to inactive and to disable the UPI IDs of these personnel because of having, chance of getting misused by some fraudulence, and associated UPI numbers, phone numbers of customers who have not performed any non-financial transaction for a minimum 1 year, they will be disabled by the agencies and by these platforms. So the major reason cited is the creating a hygienic payment ecosystem and cashless digital economy, inability to deal with major frauds which actually take place. So this is the early precautionary step which the NPCI is focusing upon.
तो ये हम लिख चुके हैं बहुत बार. एथिकल डायलेमास, AI, जनरेटिव AI क्या है, ओपन AI, व्हाट इज दैट?
So what are the market solutions to tackle the stubble burning problems? So these are the facts that how much, कितना टन पैडी हो रहा है, कितना % जो है पंजाब में जला रहे हैं, कितने हजार जो है stubble burning के cases रिपोर्ट हुए हैं. But if we talk about the market strategies are number one, balers, जिनको हम use create कर सकते हैं with the specialized machines, and they can be sent in the production houses for the incineration and for the heat purposes to create the finest products of the industrial towns. So industrial towns में उनकी supply कर सकते हैं, and then incentive दे सकते हैं biomass energy के लिए. Energy tariffs की हम बात कर रहे हैं, and so basically these balers can be used in the electricity generation, biogas, bio-CNG, biomanure, biofuels. All other renewable energies sources, and Act C2, Management of Paddy Straw Policy. So Haryana is a state which has implemented this policy called Act C2, Management of Paddy Straw Policy 2023, which is providing financial incentives to the farmers to use it. And in situ processes, on field treatment like spreading the biodecomposers and the jaggery balls in the farms, so that the degradation of the straw happens within a week. As it is written that industrial use in paper, sugar and biogas plants can also be done. So in situ and bio ex situ, these are the two ways we can write when we are writing the exam, particularly that how we can deal the problem on two steps.
I think now we can take up the Hindi newspaper.
Okay.
दिव्या दिव्या ने ज्वाइन ही नहीं किया। ओके, सो हम लोग
कोई नहीं, मैं कर देता हूँ इसे, आप चलाइए।
ओके।
आज बेसिकली अपनी परीक्षा है, सेमीफाइनल, इंडिया वर्सेस न्यूजीलैंड। बिहार के बालू लदे ट्रैक्टर हैं।
तो ये बालू
युवा का रौंदा।
बालू का जो खनन और रेती का जो खनन होता है, जो हमारी नदियां हैं, प्रोमिनेंट नदियां जैसे गंगा यमुना, किस तरीके से जो प्रोमिनेंट एरियाज हैं उसको हम कम कर सकते हैं। तो इसमें हमने बात की है कि किस तरीके से RFID और GPS टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज कर सकते हैं माफियाओं के खिलाफ, ताकि उनका अर्ली डिटेक्शन हो। जो हमारा पुलिस,
अल्टरनेटिव टू द सैंड यूज कर सकते हैं, जैसे हमने
हाँ
डिस्कस भी किया था, एम सैंड वर्सेस बाकी सब,
हम्म।
जो कार्बन सूट से बना हुआ सैंड होता है उसको भी यूज कर सकते हैं,
हम्म,
तभी जाके कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल में बालू का कम यूज हो।
यस। तो मिलावटी भोजन या पेय बचने पर न्यूनतम 6 महीने की आपको सजा दी जाएगी। तो ये मुझे लगता है कि जो हमारे खाद्य पदार्थ और जो हमारे खाने पीने की सामग्री बेचने वाले जो व्यापारी हैं, उनके ऊपर एक काफी एक रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म साबित होगा। क्योंकि जब हम बात करते हैं कि त्योहारों के समय में किस तरीके से जो मिलावटें देखी जाती हैं, लेकिन परेशानी सिर्फ यही है कि जो हमारे फूड इंस्पेक्टर जैसी जो पोस्ट भारत सरकार के अंडर होती है, अगर ट्रैफिक मैनेजमेंट करना होता है तो ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाले देखे जाते हैं। लेकिन जब मिलावटी भोजन और त्योहार पे हमें फूड इंस्पेक्टर्स जो है वो देखने को नहीं मिलते हैं, तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कि फूड इंस्पेक्टर्स की नियुक्ति जो है टाइमली और अकाउंटेबल वे में की जाए। दूसरा, जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं मिठाइयों के और जो भी खाने के हैं, उनका प्रॉपर इंग्रेडिएंट्स उनके ऊपर छपे हों और लोगों में अवेयरनेस जनरेशन के लिए उन्हें बताया जाए। तीसरा, जो एक खराब होने की जो मतलब जो खाद्य पदार्थ होते हैं, जो उनके खराब होने की एक लिमिट होती है, उनको उसको बेसिकली लोगों को पहले ही बताया जाए। और उसमें शायद हमारे यहाँ एक टर्म भी यूज किया जाता है इसके लिए। तो ये कुछ स्टेप्स हैं जो हमें लेने चाहिए। तो एम्स में डायबिटीज के मरीजों को निशुल्क अगर इंसुलिन मिलने लगेगी, तो औशिक क्या आपका मानना है कि मतलब इस तरीके का जो स्टेप है वो हर अस्पताल को लेना चाहिए? क्योंकि डायबिटीज खाली एम्स से रिलेटेड नहीं है, डायबिटीज तो एक महामारी है, मतलब जिसके लिए पूरे ही जो हेल्थ सिस्टम है उसको इस तरीके के स्टेप लेने चाहिए।
In my opinion, free diabetes insulin is not a solution to treat the diabetes. It will only make the matter worse. तो
नहीं,
I
तो
think
मैं थोड़ा आपको बताना
there
चाहूंगा
should be
कि
a
जितने भी सरकारी अस्पताल होते हैं, उनमें आज से नहीं, 50 मतलब 30-40 सालों से ही मतलब जो है जो सरकारी हॉस्पिटलों में इलाज होता है वो फ्री में ही होता है। तो इंसुलिन जो है एक मतलब वो फ्री में ही लगाया जाता है। तो ये जो निशुल्क मिलने लगे की बात हम कर रहे हैं, मतलब मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये कोई नया स्टेप नहीं है। तो इसको मतलब हर अस्पताल के अंदर लागू करना चाहिए, कुछ मैटर वर्स नहीं होगा मुझे जैसा जहां तक पता है इसमें। मानसी, अगर आपको कुछ बताना है तो।
हाँ यही है, मतलब कि जो गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल जब फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट ऑलरेडी प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, बट ये सोल्यूशन नहीं है, मतलब प्रिवेंटिव मेजर नहीं है। हमें सबसे पहले जो
वही
हमारा
तो मैं बोल रहा था प्रवेश
प्रायोरिटी है
कि
वो प्रिवेंटिव
हाँ
मेजर होना चाहिए। डायबिटीज को प्रिवेंट करने के लिए जो लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस चाहिए, जो हमारी ईटिंग हैबिट्स है, डाइटरी हैबिट्स है, उनमें हम कैसे चेंज लेके आ सकते हैं।
हम्म। हाँ, वो भी हमें करने
क्योंकि
चाहिए। और
डायबिटीज
हॉस्पिटल। हम्म।
डायबिटीज जो है वो लाइफस्टाइल डिजीज है, वो
हम्म।
तो डिफरेंट है। तो लाइफस्टाइल प्रमोशन में प्रपोर्ट ज़्यादा करना चाहिए, सब्सिडी दे सकते हैं इंसुलिन में। आप
हम्म।
आप फ्री आप देना स्टार्ट करें तो सबको यूज कर सकते हैं फिर इसको, तो मैटर वर्स हो जाए। होता है ना कि ऐसे फॉर एग्जांपल एयर
फर्टिलाइजर्स के
प्योरीफायर।
केस में ही देखा था हमने, फर्टिलाइजर्स के केस में ही अगर
हाँ
सब्सिडीज
मतलब
प्रोवाइड हो
हाँ
रही है तो हाँ ओवर यूज हो रहा है उसका।
हाँ हाँ, वही बात है। तो
तो
प्रवेश तो
भारत ने
बोलने के लिए तो नहीं
कनाडा
बोल
से
सकते
कहा
कि
कि पूजा
फ्री
स्थलों
देना
पर
चाहिए।
हमले और नफरती भाषण रोकें। तो अब हम देख रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से कनाडा के अंदर जो रिलीजियस इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं और रिलीजियस प्लेसेस हैं, having the association with India, they are also getting subjected to radicalization and extremism, which is done by the Khalistani outfits. So, do we have any particular convention, Mansi, regarding that? How to stop this problem? Any convention, जैसे हमारे यहाँ जेनेवा कन्वेंशन है और अलग कन्वेंशन है, तो रिलीजियस इंस्टीट्यूशन जो अलग अलग कंट्रीज में स्टैब्लिश है, उनको मतलब उनकी सेकेंडनेस को बचाने के लिए डू वी हैव एनी कन्वेंशन?
एक कन्वेंशन है बट आई कांट रिकॉल द नेम ऑफ इट एग्जैक्टली क्या है।
ठीक है, उसी का आप बता सके तो।
नहीं पता प्रवेश, आप बता दो।
ठीक है, तो आई थिंक वी हैव द सिमिलर कन्वेंशन, दैट इज द Geneva Convention, which talks about that neither the civilian and nor the the religious and the civilian property will be touched by any sort of in any sort of war, in any sort of conflict. So उसका प्रॉपर तरीके से कनाडा जो है उसको ध्यान रखना चाहिए।
ओके।
So this is the political news, so we can move on the next page.
I think, Oshik, we can start with the summarizing of our today's discussion.
ओके, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल with regard to the Hindu newspaper, starting with the Golden Triangle, we discuss what are the countries are there: Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos. Then we move forward to the PESA Act and how it can be reformed to make it more inclusive for the tribals and their rights with respect to the grazing and right to livelihood. Then we talked about the Birsa Munda and how it was a revivalist movement, and we talked about the Birsite religion and the Birsite Raj against the British uh, and the Jamindars and moneylender. Then we talked about the digital journey of India and how the Norwegian country is talking about the digital as a public good and how they are talking about the digital sovereignty. And with respect to India, how India has been able to improve the digital infrastructure, and with the example of India Stack incorporating various other digital services such as UPI, etc. Then how India and other developed countries are talking about the digital public infrastructure under the G20. With respect to AI, we talked about if in a world, if in the future there would be a no work environment, but that would be not the case. There would be a transformation in the work, but I think world without work cannot be justified. Then AI is ethical or not, use of machine, use of AI in the military doctrine we talked about. Then coming to the death penalty, we concluded that in the rarest of rare cases only, we should use death penalty, and other cases we should use life sentences. Then in the army, there are several issues such as fratricide, it's suicide, and non-inclusive to the gender such as women and transgender, etc. So make it environment more inclusive, infrastructure needs to be done. So this is all I can recall, Mansi. You can continue.
Yeah, okay, Oshik. So I would start with, firstly, we discussed about the big tech firms and the Indian government trying to, get basically make certain changes in terms of getting access to the anonymous data which the big tech firms have. So we are having an upcoming like law upon the personal safety of the data, and we also discussed about the difference between personal and non-personal data. So that was one thing. Then we talked about golden passport. What is golden passport? Like it is majorly issued by the countries which are considered to be tax havens, or countries which are having smaller populations which want more development. So as an attractive measure, they are issuing golden passports so that they can get more investments. So they're also providing certain tax incentives on that also. So that is one thing. And apart from this, in the context of Jharkhand, we talked about what Jharkhand is known for famously. So Jharkhand is a mineral rich state. We get uranium. We are having uranium mines, like we have Jaduguda mines, then iron ore. We talked about that first, Tisco plant was set up in Jharkhand. So that is, we are having Raniganj mines for iron ore extraction. So this is the importance. Apart from this, we discussed about inflation in the pulses. So we see ki certain factors responsible for the inflation in pulses is the El Nino effect that we saw during monsoon this time. Then we are seeing demand supply mismatch, which is also causing disruption and inflation in pulses. And with that, we are seeing that India is also an import dependent country on pulses also. So that is the aspect. And apart from this, we also talked about artificial intelligence in the defense, its usage. So we talked about how China is also even using AI in defense for logistics sector or even for surveillance. So in India also, AI should be a part of the defense plan, but we need to ensure it is used in a regulated manner. We talked about that the humans being, they should also be in that loop, like final decision making power should rest with the humans. So ethical usage, even in terms of, we talked about killer robots, so the final decision should be there with the humans, so that power should be there. And then we also discussed about what are the issues between India and UK for FTA. So we talked about country of origin, that is one issue, IPR, electric vehicles, and in the context of students also providing them visas. So that's there. And we also talked in this context of the AUKUS and what are India's concerns about that. What is basically the major policy, we can say, or the ideology that is being supported by UK and US there. So India also focuses upon technology transfer, as we are focusing more upon the domestic production. So that's there. And in the context of clean air, we discussed what can be 9 measures that can be taken, because we are seeing premature deaths, the numbers going up. So it's important to firstly acknowledge the problem, then we can focus upon integrated approach should be adopted, recycling, upcycling, 3R economy should be adopted, these measures. Then limiting stubble burning, that should be another area. Then we need to have affordable and green urban transportation system. And one important measure, unique thing, was airshed approach. And then end-to-end construction, that was discussed, waste disposal and awareness generation amongst the people. So these were important areas. And we then discussed about rupee depreciation, what the reasons. We talked about organ donation, maybe we are seeing gender disparity. NATO is the body, like National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Organization is there. So with that